Hey everybody, Jake Thurm on behalf of V1 Sports. We are looking at Luke Clanton, who has just made the cut at PGA National this week to earn his PGA Tour card. No small feat. He also contended at the Waste Management earlier in the year. This was taken at Sea Island by his great coach, guy I have a lot of respect for, Jeff Leishman. He's done a phenomenal job with Luke. Let's see what we can take away here in terms of Luke's face-on driver swing that you at home maybe can work on with your driver swing. First and foremost, we notice that his stance width, the insides of his feet are slightly outside the width of his shoulders. That one is pretty common for your great drivers. Ball position is located forward in the stance up near that lead shoulder right there. And then he does have a little bit of an away tilt, only a few degrees. Most of these guys will have a relatively level pelvis with some away tilt at address. A lot of people out there teaching to bump the hips forward, to tilt the upper body back. That is not something that I've been measuring in 3D. Actually, the center of the pelvis might be slightly away on the driver, slightly towards on your scoring clubs. So just having this kind of relatively level and then kind of side tilting away, only a few degrees, probably 5 degrees, maybe a little bit more than that. This is going to show you basically someone that is very rotational with their driver swing. You're not going to see a ton of lateral motion. Now, the interesting thing would be to have him on a force plate, because then you could see a lot of the lateral pressure. So if you put him on a V1 pressure mat, you'd see a lot of lateral pressure shifting from side to side, because you're not going to see a big center of mass shift. So what kind of looks like getting the club going, I promise you the swing starts before the club moves, would be a push down on his front foot, very subtle, to load his back one in terms of center of pressure, okay? So you can just see that the golf swing starts before the club moves, but then from a 2D's perspective and what we can witness, since we're not measuring him on a force plate, is that you can see that the golf club moves back. First, it has the furthest to travel, okay? So he has pushed down the lead side to load his trail side. Now, I want you to watch his head and his hips off of these yellow lines. These were starting points. Yellow line was off the lead side of his head, and I call it kind of the teepee here, and it was kind of off of the outside of his hips. So you can see right after the takeaway, which is probably, for most great drivers, the furthest their center of pelvis will be away from the target, is you're going to start seeing it go behind him, and that right pocket starts moving away from that yellow line that started on his hips. Head, lead side of his head has rotated back, so if he had a laser pen in his mouth, he would be pointing it a little bit outside of his foot. But you can see in terms of the positioning of where the lead side of his head is, very similar to where it was at address. It's just the head has rotated back with beautiful high hands representing a tremendous amount of arc. So many of the great drivers of the golf ball of all time have had a tremendous amount of arc in their swing. So again, not a ton of lateral motion. Trust me, there is a lot of lateral pressure shift, but a very, we'll call it centered and high arcing swing as he kind of turns behind the ball. But again, it was a centered turn behind the ball. He was already set up with a few degrees away at address, and then basically kind of rotated around that starting point. As he starts down, again, you're going to see him get into the lead side early. So we know all the great players have their center of pressure go to the lead side earlier rather than later. And the guys that actually have the least amount of lateral motion to the target will get that pressure forward even sooner. That way they can use their lead side, in this case his left leg, to push, to kind of break that lateral motion earlier, push up and get the lead side left hip behind him, and that's exactly what he's going to do. So you just don't see that lateral bump. Not with Luke anyways. He's going to push up from the ground, and in his delivery position here, you're going to see that left pocket disappearing behind him. So almost that left leg is matching that original starting position, and so is his lead arm and pretty much down into the golf club. This is awesome. And the only way that's achieved, you cannot keep sliding to the target. What these modern players are doing is they want to be at max lateral to the target at or near the top of the swing. And then they want to be at max negative lateral. So the fastest they'd be moving away from the target, so in that direction, by impact, because that would transmit the most speed and energy of the golf club. That's exactly what Luke is doing here. Again, you can see that left foot kind of off the ground a little bit and moving backwards. So I guarantee his center of pressure would move momentarily to his trail foot, back to his trail foot, and that's how he would release the club. This is a great representation of a very centered, albeit, again, turning behind, but it was already behind at start, centered rotational swing where the lead side has to break the lateral motion earlier, push up from the ground, and get around the corner. And then you can see kind of how his lead leg is actually angled back with his right shoulder in front of his hips. So cool. So many great things that you can take away from it, even if it was just a setup standpoint. This is what the modern players are doing. They're using their lead side to stop the lateral motion towards the target, push up from the ground aggressively, and then open up their lead side to get it behind them. I call this running backwards through impact with the lead side. Big time speed creation. And again, if you're looking for a great driver swing to emulate, especially if you got a junior golfer out there, this is a good one. Jeff Leishman's done a phenomenal job. Luke is going to have a phenomenal career. Jake Thurm on behalf of V1 Sports, and we will see you on the next one.